From a suicide attempt that ended the lives of 149 people. A bomb attack that was placed in airplane luggage, changing the rules of aviation. Even the takeoff of a plane that in a matter of seconds lost its turbine and control. Today I'll be sharing the top 7 most terrifying plane moments you'll never forget after watching this. But first, if you don't see tomorrow's special video, let me wish you a Merry Christmas. Now, let's begin with an accident that claimed the lives of 149 people. American Airlines Flight 191. A man is slamming an axe against the cockpit door. He's screaming, desperate, striking the metal again and again, begging to be let in. But on the other side, there is only silence. Meanwhile, the plane is descending, slowly, steadily, heading straight toward a mountain wall. Air traffic control tries to make contact, no answer. Emergency protocols are triggered, fighter jets are launched, an international alert is issued, but it's already too late. Germanwings 9525 is falling, and inside, 150 people sit, unaware of what's unfolding. What's happening behind that cockpit door? Who is the man wielding the axe? Why is the plane descending? And the most chilling question of all, is there any chance they could survive? This is the real story of one of the darkest moments in modern aviation. A tragedy that left behind more questions than answers. This is the story of Germanwings Flight 9525. Ready? Let's get started. And don't forget to leave your like and subscribe. March 24, 2015. Germanwings Flight 9525 departs Barcelona en route to Düsseldorf. On board, 144 passengers and 6 crew members. Families, students, travelers, all unaware that in just 30 minutes, everything will change. In the cockpit, Captain Patrick Sondenheimer, seasoned, respected. And beside him, First Officer Andreas Lubitz, 27 years old, polite, quiet, a man who didn't stand out. To most, he was just another face in the crew. But behind that composed exterior, something far more dangerous was brewing. The flight progresses normally, until the captain steps out of the cockpit for a moment, and in that moment, the fate of Flight 9525 is sealed. The cockpit door is sealed, and the co-pilot is alone. Inside, Andreas Lubitz says nothing. He just breathes, stares ahead, and begins turning the altitude selector. The descent begins, slow, steady, but aimed directly at the mountains of southern France. Outside, the captain pounds on the door, at first calmly, then desperately. But that door won't open. It's reinforced. And from inside, no one intends to unlock it. The cockpit becomes a cage, and the man holding the key has made his choice. Air traffic control tries to reach the aircraft. No reply. From the radar, a steady descent. Controlled, but mysterious. A technical failure? A depressurization? No one imagines this is happening by design. And that one man is in complete control. The plane isn't flying anymore, it's falling. But not out of control, not in chaos. It's a deliberate descent. Calculated, precise. Air traffic controllers grow increasingly anxious. They call again and again, still no reply. The captain keeps trying. He pounds the door with his fists, then with a heavy object, tries to break it down. Inside, Lubitz shows no emotion. His breathing is steady. His hands never leave the controls. The passengers remain calm. There's no warning, no turbulence, just a gentle, steady descent, as if everything is normal. On the ground, an alert is issued. 2 French fighter jets scramble to intercept the flight. But time is running out. Altitude drops below 10,000 feet and continues falling. Ahead, the jagged peaks of the French Alps. Seconds remain. And still, no one can open that door. The aircraft is now below 6,000 feet. The captain keeps trying to force the door, but there's no time left. Inside the cockpit, Lubitz breathes calmly. No words, no panic. Just his hands on the controls. At 10:41 a.m., Germanwings Flight 9525 crashes into the French Alps at 700 kilometers per hour. Everyone on board dies instantly. What you're about to hear is a real fragment from the cockpit voice recorder. Listener discretion is advised. In the days that followed, the world demanded answers. What went wrong? How could one man decide the fate of 150 people? The black boxes revealed a haunting truth. Andreas Lubitz had crashed the plane on purpose. He had been treated for severe mental health issues. There were medical records advising against flying, but he hid his condition, and no one saw the signs. Lubitz wasn't a technical failure. He was a human blind spot, a silence that cost lives. After the investigation, cockpit protocols changed, requiring 2 people in the flight deck at all times, but those changes came too late. On that mountain slope, only flowers remain, crosses, names, 150 lives, taken mid-journey. Parents, children, stories that were never allowed to finish. And if you think that accident was enigmatic, the next one generated even more shock, because they lost the emergency exit mid-flight, instantly. We're talking about Alaska Airlines Flight 1282. On January 5, 2024, Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, a Boeing 737-9 MAX, departed Portland bound for Ontario, California. The aircraft was climbing through just over 14,000 feet when everything suddenly changed. Without warning, a violent, explosive decompression ripped through the cabin. A section of the fuselage, a panel near the rear of the aircraft, blew out into the night sky. The cabin instantly filled with roaring wind. Oxygen masks dropped. Phones, headrests, and personal items were violently sucked out of the aircraft. Passengers screamed as the temperature plunged and the pressure vanished in seconds. Videos recorded inside the cabin captured the chaos. An open hole where the side of the plane should have been, debris gone, and terrified passengers bracing for what they thought could be the end. The pilots reacted immediately, declaring an emergency and initiating a rapid descent back toward Portland. Despite the shock and damage, the aircraft remained controllable. Just 20 minutes after takeoff, Flight 1282 landed safely. Miraculously, all 171 passengers and crew survived, though several were injured. But the real shock came afterward. Investigators determined that the blown-out section was a mid-cabin door plug, a panel installed in place of an optional emergency exit. This plug was not secured properly. Critical bolts meant to hold it in place were either missing or never installed at all. Under pressurization, the fuselage gave way. The incident exposed serious manufacturing and quality control failures, involving both Boeing and its supplier, Spirit Aerosystems. Within days, aviation authorities around the world grounded the entire 737-9 MAX fleet. Airlines canceled flights. Inspections revealed multiple aircraft with loose hardware and installation problems. Flight 1282 reignited global concern over Boeing's safety culture, following earlier MAX disasters. This time, passengers survived, but only by chance. Had the failure occurred at cruising altitude, the outcome could have been catastrophic. Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 became one of the most chilling reminders in modern aviation. Sometimes the most dangerous failures don't come from weather or pilot error, but from a single missing bolt. But although several lives were saved in this accident, sadly not in the one you will see next, because it was the victim of a terrorist attack. We are talking about Pan Am Flight 103. It was a cold December night in 1988. At London's Heathrow Airport, a Pan Am Boeing 747 was preparing for a routine flight to New York. Passengers boarding with smiles, crew checking every detail. Everything seemed normal. No one on that plane, nor on the ground, knew that within minutes, the night sky would erupt in one of the most shocking tragedies in aviation history. A thunderous blast, a flash of light, and suddenly silence shattered by the roar of destruction. Homes burning, streets covered in debris, and 270 lives extinguished in an instant. What could bring down a giant of the skies in mere seconds? Who was behind this act? In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the truth. Because this is the story of Pan Am Flight 103. Heathrow Airport, London. Pan Am Flight 103 is preparing for takeoff to New York. As passengers quietly settle into their seats and the crew makes final checks, in the cargo hold a suitcase unlike the rest is carefully placed. Inside, an explosive device set to detonate mid-flight. No one knows. No one imagines. But from this moment, the clock to disaster has already begun ticking. Pan Am Flight 103 cruises smoothly at over 30,000 feet, leaving England's lights behind as it heads across the Atlantic to New York.
Approaching waypoint Sierra November.
Roger that. Altitude steady.
In the cockpit, the crew chats, checks instruments, and stays on course. Passengers relax. Some read, others sleep, others simply gaze out the window at the moonlit clouds. But deep in the cargo hold, hidden among the luggage, a bomb waits. Its timer moving relentlessly, counting down the seconds to catastrophe. No one knows it, but every sip of coffee, every laugh, every word is taking place under the shadow of a deadly countdown. One that in minutes will seal the fate of everyone on board. But before continuing, if you like this video, please subscribe. It helps me grow and continue making more videos like this. At 7:03 p.m., a flash shatters the calm of the night. A violent explosion tears the Boeing 747 apart midair. Debris engulfed in flames scatters for miles. Bodies fall from the sky. Burning fragments of the aircraft crash onto rooftops, streets, and fields. In the small town of Lockerbie, Scotland, houses burn, the ground shakes, and chaos takes over. In seconds, Pan Am Flight 103 has ceased to exist. What you are about to hear is the actual cockpit voice recorder from the moment of the accident. Viewer discretion is advised.
I'd like to thank you for flying Pan Am, and to wish you a pleasant flight and a happy holiday. I'll call Patrick concerns, sir.
Good evening, Scottish. This is Clipper 103 requesting oceanic clearance.
The roar of the explosion is gone. On the ground, the silence is broken only by distant sirens and cries. Lockerbie has become a battlefield against fire. Houses destroyed, streets covered in twisted metal, and bodies among the debris. Emergency crews work tirelessly, but the magnitude of the tragedy is indescribable. 270 lives lost, including passengers, crew, and townspeople. Amid the devastation, one question grows louder.
Looks like no survivors.
What could destroy an aircraft of this size in mid-air? The investigation is only beginning. And what they will uncover reveals an act of horror planned with precision. The investigation revealed the truth. The explosion was no accident. In the cargo hold, a bomb hidden inside a suitcase had destroyed Pan Am Flight 103 mid-flight. The device had been loaded into checked luggage during its connection at Frankfurt Airport, before arriving in London. After years of investigation and international pressure, authorities held Abdelbasit al-Megrahi, a Libyan intelligence agent, responsible for the attack. The world was shocked. 270 lives taken in seconds by an act of terror calculated with surgical precision. Today, in Lockerbie, a memorial stands in honor of every victim, and of a flight forever remembered as one of the darkest chapters in aviation history. But sometimes, not all accidents happen. Some don't even manage to get off the runway properly, like the following flight you'll see. American Airlines Flight 191. Deafening roar shatters the air. In broad daylight, an American Airlines DC-10 loses its left engine during climb-out. The massive metal cylinder tears away from the wing, ripping cables, hydraulic lines, and any hope for a safe flight. In the control tower, controllers watch in horror as the aircraft banks dangerously, its left wing seemingly dragging it down.
Mayday, Mayday, Flight 305, we have an engine failure, requesting emergency landing.
In the cockpit, the captain and crew fight against a machine that no longer responds. But how did a flight, departing with 271 souls in perfect weather, reach this moment of absolute chaos? In the next few minutes, you'll hear the full story of American Airlines 191, the deadliest aviation accident on U.S. soil. It's May 25th, 1979, O'Hare International Airport, Chicago. American Airlines Flight 191 is preparing for its route to Los Angeles. The weather is perfect. Families wave goodbye with smiles, and the pilots review final checklists before takeoff. But no one, not in the terminal, not in the cockpit, not even in the maintenance team, suspects that in the left wing, engine number 1 hides a deadly trap. A vital component, damaged days earlier during improper maintenance, is about to fail. And when it does, there will be no way to stop what's coming. In the next few minutes, this routine flight will become the deadliest air disaster in U.S. history. Days before the flight, the DC-10's left engine had been removed for maintenance. But the method used wasn't the one recommended by the manufacturer. Instead of disassembling it piece by piece, the engine and its pylon were removed together using a crane. This caused invisible microfractures in the structure that attached it to the wing. No one saw them, no one looked for them, but the damage was there. just waiting for the force of takeoff to finish the job. And despite everything, that day, at 3:02 p.m., American Airlines Flight 191 is cleared for takeoff. The roar of the three engines shatters the quiet at O'Hare as the massive DC-10 begins its charge down the runway. The aircraft gains speed, the landing gear lifts from the asphalt, and then it happens. With a deafening metallic blast, the left engine tears completely away from the wing. The violent separation also rips away critical hydraulic and electrical lines, stripping control from the left wing. From the tower, controllers watch as the plane banks dangerously. In the cockpit, the captain fights to correct, but the DC-10 has already lost its deadly balance. In just 31 seconds after losing the engine, Flight 191's fate is sealed. At over 270 knots, the plane slams into an open field, barely 1.5 miles from the runway. The explosion is immediate. A fireball engulfs everything in its path. 273 lives are lost in what would become the deadliest air disaster in U.S. history. What you are about to hear is an actual recording of the black box at the time of the accident. Viewer discretion is advised. But first, if you are enjoying this video, please subscribe. It would help me a lot to continue growing. Now, let's go with the recording.
191, turn right 8330, approach takeoff 32 right northwest. 191, on the way.
I have control. Runway clear? Clear? Okay. Setting takeoff front. Here we go.
In a matter of seconds, American Airlines Flight 191 ceased to exist. The investigation revealed that the cause was a structural failure caused by an improper maintenance method that had damaged the engine's pylon. The tragedy led to immediate changes in maintenance procedures and stricter inspections across the industry. But for the 273 families who lost loved ones, no technical improvement could ever fill the void. Today, a small memorial near O'Hare Airport honors those who departed on that sunny day, reminding us that in aviation, even the smallest error can have irreversible consequences. And although most accidents end very badly, sometimes, even in critical situations, miracles happen that change the course of history. Like the next accident you'll see below. TransAsia Airways Flight 235. Moments after takeoff from Taipei's Songshan Airport, TransAsia Airways Flight 235 lifted into the morning sky with 58 people on board. The ATR-72 climbed normally at first, until something went terribly wrong. Passengers felt a sudden shudder through the cabin as the left engine lost power unexpectedly. The cockpit filled with warning tones, and the pilots, startled, were suddenly forced into a critical emergency only seconds into the flight. Inside the cabin, witnesses later described an eerie silence followed by confusion as the aircraft began banking sharply to the left. The ATR rapidly lost altitude, dipping dangerously close to the skyline around Taipei. Alarms kept sounding, and the pilots struggled to maintain control while calling out conflicting warnings. With barely any time to react, the airplane drifted sideways, almost gliding over the city, as if suspended in a moment of helplessness. On the ground, a dashcam recorded the terrifying scene. The aircraft emerging between buildings, banking steeply, its wings almost vertical. Cars crossing the bridge below had no idea what was coming. As the ATR-72 descended, its left wing clipped the edge of the bridge, slicing through a passing taxi before the entire aircraft rolled and crashed into the Keelung River. Rescue teams rushed to the scene within minutes, finding parts of the fuselage floating, passengers struggling to escape the icy water, and debris scattered across the river. Despite the horrific impact, some survivors managed to climb onto the wreckage until firefighters could pull them to safety. The investigation later uncovered a shocking sequence of errors. After the left engine failed, the pilots mistakenly shut down the right engine, the only engine still working. With both engines essentially lost, the aircraft never had a chance to recover. Miscommunication, stress, and split-second misjudgment sealed the fate of Flight 235. This tragedy became one of the most analyzed dashcam-recorded crashes in history, not only because of the dramatic footage, but because it highlighted how human error during high-stress emergencies can escalate a survivable situation into a catastrophic one. But even though this video was shocking, the next one marked an entire generation, because it was the darkest day in the United States. We're talking about the 9/11 attacks. It's Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. A crystal-clear morning over the East Coast. Thousands of planes cross the sky, but 4 of them are about to rewrite history. At 8:14 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 stops responding to air traffic control. Minutes later, radar shows it veering off course, heading straight for New York City. At 8:46 a.m., the unimaginable happens. The Boeing 767 slams into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, exploding into a fireball. Smoke, fire, chaos. The entire city freezes in disbelief. But before anyone can process what's happening, another plane appears on the horizon. United Airlines Flight 175. At 9:03 a.m., it dives toward Manhattan and crashes into the South Tower, slicing through the building like a missile. The world is now watching live as 2 towers burn, and fear spreads across the nation. At 9:37, American Airlines Flight 77 strikes the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and just 26 minutes later, United Flight 93 crashes into a field in Pennsylvania after passengers fight back, preventing it from reaching its intended target in Washington. But what really happened? Investigators uncover an unprecedented and coordinated act of terror. 19 hijackers from Al-Qaeda had taken control of 4 commercial jets, turning them into weapons. They exploited weaknesses in cockpit security, unlocked doors, unarmed pilots, and no screening for sharp objects. These flaws allowed the attackers to overwhelm the crew and carry out their deadly mission. In total, 2,977 people lost their lives, making it the deadliest terrorist attack in human history and the darkest day in American aviation. But from this devastation came massive change. New air marshals, reinforced cockpit doors, and the creation of the TSA. Air travel would never be the same again. September 11th wasn't just an attack. It was a warning that safety could never be taken for granted. And finally, we will talk about a very curious accident. Because when the plane was about to land, it ran out of fuel, creating a major accident. We are talking about Asiana Airlines Flight 214. On July 6, 2013, dozens of phones, airport cameras, and long-range lenses recorded a Boeing 777 approaching San Francisco International Airport. But something was very wrong. As the aircraft descended toward runway 28L, witnesses noticed the jet coming in unusually low. So low that some people thought it might actually touch the water. The engines roared as the crew tried to correct the glide path, but the aircraft continued sinking dangerously. In the final seconds, the nose pitched up sharply, a desperate attempt to gain altitude. But it was too late. The 777 struck the seawall at the edge of the runway, shearing off the landing gear and ripping the tail section from the fuselage. Cameras captured the moment the aircraft slammed into the ground, cartwheeled, and slid violently down the runway in a cloud of debris and fire. The footage became one of the most analyzed crash videos in aviation history, a moment of pure terror recorded from multiple angles. Inside the cabin, passengers were thrown against seats and walls as the cabin twisted and tore open. Despite the chaos, many survivors later described a sudden, eerie silence right after the impact, followed by screams, flames, and the desperate rush to escape before the fire spread. And incredibly, most people on board survived. Why did this crash happen? The investigation found a chain of errors. The flight crew mismanaged the autopilot systems and allowed the aircraft to descend far below the proper glide path. Airspeed dropped dangerously, unnoticed until seconds before impact. By the time they realized they were about to stall, the engines were already too slow to generate the thrust needed for a successful go-around. Confusion about automation, miscommunication in the cockpit, and a reliance on systems the pilots thought were activated but weren't, led the aircraft into an unrecoverable, low-energy, low-altitude state. In the end, a misunderstanding of the aircraft's flight mode and poor situational awareness brought the 777 down in front of hundreds of witnesses.